it up. Now, camera-wise, since we're already on the back, we'll go and hit on it. It does have a single 16 megapixel sensor, and I think at the end of the day, even still, it's a pretty good sensor for the most part. Now, there have been a lot of S6 Edges and even S6s that I've messed with that have dust in the camera lens and all that stuff, so that stuff naturally happens throughout the years. Because these phones, this one's being a 6-year-old device, it's definitely not going to feel like the most premium feeling thing, and because of that, chipping starts to happen, dust and debris gets all over the phone, and it just happens because of test of time. The Galaxy S21 is also going to experience that, 10 years from now too. So with that being out of the way, the raw camera lens with no obstructions, no nothing, is actually a pretty good camera lens for the most part. You can do 4K at 30, which I think is really good, and still pretty current. It would have been better if it was a little bit more, like 4K at 60, but we did eventually get that with the Galaxy S9, I think. So at the end of the day, this camera lens is actually still a pretty good camera. Now, the front camera is a little bit different, which we'll get into in a second, but I think the thing that ages this camera the most, especially right now, is probably the lack of multiple lenses. We don't have a telephoto ultra wide, nothing like that. So that really does kind of hinder this type of camera and stopping it from being a super legendary device. But I think at the end of the day, the quality is still pretty good. The video quality is surprisingly pretty good as well. I think the features built into this camera are also really, really good. Like, it's actually a really good camera for it being 6 years old. Obviously, if a manufacturer dropped this camera as a brand new phone right now in 2021, it would be a horrible idea. I would not recommend anyone buying it. But because of the price and because of the year it came out and all that stuff, it's actually pretty surprising, performing camera for sure. On the front though, we have a single 5 megapixel camera, and this is probably one of its biggest downsides. I think this camera had a really bad front camera, 1440p. The resolution was actually pretty surprisingly high for that time, but it's really not that good of a camera. You're gonna have a lot of problems with it, and I probably would not recommend people picking it up just because of the front camera. But the back camera is still surprisingly good for a 6-year-old phone. So at the end of the day, that pretty much covers it up in the camera standpoint. Now